Curtis, the manager billed the Leicester game as one of the biggest in his time here. What about this game against Everton?
Well, it's just made it a little bit bigger, hasn't it? We came into these Christmas games believing that there were opportunities to take a lot of points in those 4 games from Swansea to Everton. Unfortunately, the Swansea game didn't go how we wanted it to. Sunderland, obviously, we managed to come away with the 3 points and a good performance, which I felt was quite important. But obviously, the Leicester game has then become another blip. So it's obviously very frustrating because I think the gaffer said after the game we had enough chances to win 3 games, especially in those last 20 minutes of Leicester game. So, like I say, Everton is a game we believed beforehand that we could possibly go into it and get a few points. So I'm hoping that hasn't changed, and if we can create anywhere near the chances that we created in the Leicester game, then we'll have half a chance.
The lack of goals at home, as a defender, does that put added pressure on?
It obviously, yeah, it does, because you're a different animal when you're chasing a game and trying to score a goal to when you're holding on to a lead. And it's like I touched on before. Last year we were the team that got the lead and held on to the lead. This year it's sort of the onus is on us now, with the expectation to go out there and win games. So we're not settling for. Well, I say we're not settling. We'd take a 0-0 sometimes, but I mean we want to win these home games, and when we see an opportunity to try and win a game, we'll go to win a game rather than sit back and just absorb a team and take a point. So like I say, I'm hoping we can get back to that team that it might not be as pretty as obviously people want, but get back to that team that gets a lead and maybe holds on to it. But it's just getting that goal first, and I'm hoping that with the strikers having those chances the other day and coming back into it there, that they won't want to miss another one, and we'll be able to get a lead.
The manager's told us this morning that he's ruled himself out of the running for the Newcastle job. Is that a relief for the players to finally put that to bed?
I'd like to say we don't really listen to too much about rumours and things like that anyway, but I've said before that at times like this where things aren't going as well as you want it to, as players, coaching staff, kitchen staff, everyone within the football club needs to come together, and I think we've got a much better chance of coming together and succeeding if the manager's at the helm of it all, rather than trying to search for someone else that's going to come in and try and put it all right.
Arsene Wenger's had some things to say in the last few days about diving. As a player, would you like to see a panel set up, maybe with retrospective punishment brought in for players that do dive?
As a defender, obviously, it's never nice, and it's never the best thing to happen against you. But talking about panels and things like that, I think there's more important things that go on the football pitch, because then you're talking about, okay, then if you're going to have a panel for diving, are you going to have a panel that will rescind yellow cards for tackles where a defender hasn't actually touched the player? Does that count as a dive then, because he hasn't touched the player, and you open up a whole can of worms. So I don't think it should happen. I think, like I say, it's part of the game now, unfortunately, and it's just trying to identify the right ones and then other than that, trying to eradicate or try and educate people that it's not the right way we want to play the game. But like I say, I think any sort of panel that were to go ahead wouldn't, in my opinion, wouldn't work, because some people might believe that, like I say, sometimes nowadays if you don't go down, you don't get the foul. And a lot of people have missed out on penalties where they've tried to be the honest player, stay on their feet and get to the ball and maybe score a goal themselves, but because they've stayed on their feet, they've not got a penalty. And then the player that gets touched a little bit goes down, gets the penalty, maybe a bit soft, but that's the way that football is going these days. So maybe if referees, maybe not putting the blame on referees, but maybe if they were to give the decisions for the honest players as well, then I guess it stops players believing that they have to go down every time to get a free kick or a penalty.
Final day of the year, a lot of celebrations tonight. From a player's point of view, how difficult is that, and is there a message as a senior player to some of your younger teammates?
I think, well, yeah, I was going to say for myself, it's not really a problem because it's the same old. You're used to it. You're used to Christmas. In this country, you maybe get a few hours with your family on Christmas Day, and then you're off on Christmas evening to travel usually, and then it's the same with New Year's. I think New Year's should, if anything, be a bit of an easier one because, like I say, you're not going to be out, you're not going to be drinking, so just get your backside in bed and go watch a film or something. But like I say, I think everyone within our camp anyway, I couldn't talk for other squads, are clever enough and are good pros that they know they need to do the right things tonight, and regardless of whether it be in New Year's or not, there's a massive game tomorrow, and whatever happens, we need to be ready for that.
Steve's told us this morning that he'd like to see a winter break brought into English football. What's your take on that?
I think it might work, I guess, but the only problem in this country is that we have 2 cup competitions that obviously go on a long time. So you're talking about if we were to have a winter break and we skip these 2 weeks, you look at a club like a Chelsea or an Arsenal that are in the Champions League or whatever, they're missing 4 games, and then later on in the season, when it comes to it, they're going to maybe have to play Tuesday, Sunday, Wednesday, Saturday, and you're talking about the build-up will then just be towards the end of the season. So I'm not sure how it would work, whether they'd extend the season or start it earlier or whatever. I don't know how that would work, but I think the other side of it in this country is the traditionalists, that maybe someone has taken their grandson to the game for the last 25 years on Boxing Day, and in this country we're big about that, and to take that away from people sometimes would be difficult, and also attendances, because clubs like ourselves, I'm guessing that when you have these Christmas games, your attendances are usually a bit better because, like I say, you got the family over and everyone goes to the Boxing Day game or the New Year game, so I think it might affect some clubs' attendances as well.
Busy few days. You got the FA Cup as well against Arsenal. That'll bring back memories, won't it, of the cup final?
It will. Obviously a different setting, and but it's just strange because I was at the draw, obviously, when we came out of the hat. I guess it was just meant to be. To come out in the rehearsal was the first thing, and then to come out in the main live draw was amazing. So it obviously was meant to be. It was written in the stars. So I'm just hoping that we can do one better and actually win the game of football, even if it means getting a draw at the Emirates and bring them back here and winning. But everyone wants to win games of football, and the way the competition was good to us last year, it would be good to try and have another run in that.
Can I just ask, what's it like as a player? These are a relentless series of games. Do you feel it taking its toll on you as a player?
Usually it does, but surprisingly, I felt okay after these last couple of games. I think the Sunderland game was tough because obviously having a lead, and then towards the end they threw a lot at us in terms of O'Shea would be up there and stay up there for 5 minutes maybe and trying to get back into the game. But that was more of a solid defensive sort of contribution, put your head on the line and things like that, rather than running around too much. So that sort of saved your legs. And then the Leicester game, after they'd scored, they sort of retreated and held on to their lead. So again, that was a game where, as a defender, I was fortunate enough to be able to get a bit of rest in my legs, if I'm honest, because myself and Alex Bruce, we just pushed on the fullbacks, tried to allow them all to try and get us back into the game, and we done the defending. And you might have to maybe chase one long ball back, and then you'll be up again. So I've been fortunate in terms of the way the games have played on my legs, but when the Everton game comes, I might tell you a different story, to be honest, because you never really know until you're out there. And
yeah. So what about for other players who are perhaps not so used to the Premier League and playing positions they need to run more, perhaps? Is it? Do they express how difficult they're finding it?
Yeah, well, if you talk about maybe a player like a Gaston Ramirez that hadn't had a run of games and is just getting himself really into that fitness where he can play now, and his performances in his appearances for us have been very good. But obviously, when you're playing the 20th, 26th, 28th, it is difficult for someone that hasn't really played many games through the season to then just switch it on and be able to come through those games. So obviously that's why I guess the manager took it that he thought Gaston might be better saving his legs and getting into this Everton game to make sure he's still able to play it, rather than wear him into the ground and then he's got nothing for the Everton game. So it's just about man managing in terms of the coaching and in the gym who does what and what people do in training. But I'm sure that everyone at this stage wants to play, regardless of whether they're tired or not, because everyone wants to do their best and their individual part to make sure that things get right on the pitch.